Welcome to Awaken the Mind, the NLP and Hypnosis Guide, hosted by David Uhas.
You're listening to Awaken the Mind, the NLP and Hypnosis Guide, a podcast that inspires the curious to the professional to discover meaningful content and pursue their passions. My name is David Uhas, and I'm a master NLP practitioner and hypnotist, best known for losing over 100 pounds and running 6 marathons in 2 years. And I'm sitting down with hypnotists, NLP practitioners, and coaches to talk about their process, the lessons they've learned, and how to make an impact in the lives of others. Our guest today is Jeremy Walker, and he is a hypnotherapist in Brisbane, Australia. He focuses on helping people live free of addiction, anxiety, and depression. Jeremy published the book, Freedom from Addiction, where he shares the Walker addiction removal process to transform without using willpower. And please welcome our guest today, Jeremy Walker. Hi, Jeremy.
Good day, David. Thank you very much for having me on board.
I'm so glad that you are here and excited to talk about this book that you have written. But tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're at right now. You're in Brisbane, Australia, and you said it's 11 a.m. there. What's the weather like? What's going on in your world right now?
Yeah, that's right. It's just starting to get into winter here in Brisbane. So we get down to around 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, a little bit chilly, maybe not as chilly as some places there in the US. And I grew up fairly close to here in northern New South Wales, always been by the beach, always enjoyed the water. That's where I usually find myself on days off when not working, out in nature and down by the water.
Not only is the time difference, but the season's difference. It is like getting really warm and humid here in the United States. We're just getting ready to start summer. So it's interesting to think about it being winter there. I would love to visit when it's winter here, because then you're having your summer.
Oh, no, it's beautiful here in summer. Yeah, you'll love it.
Nice. That's on my list of places I want to travel to. So let's get to learn about you before we get into the book. Tell me about yourself growing up, your school, friends, hobbies, interests, any role models, anything you want to share with us.
Well, I think from growing up, I never had a spiritual development process or a personal development process. I kind of feel like I've got my life before 20 years old and my life after 20 years old. So as a kid, I really pretty much did whatever I wanted to do. Always had a little side business going, from mowing lawns, selling things online, always making money for myself and that sort of thing. But from about age 20 onwards, I thought to myself, well, what's the purpose of this life? And I thought, well, it's to be happy. It's to do things that fulfill me and to make me satisfied. I remember the very first book I ever read was by Anthony Robbins, called Awaken the Giant Within. Oh, yeah. And one thing from that book that was really interesting is it took me 9 months to read it. Not so much because of the length, but because of how much it challenged my mind to think in a different way. So he would have been my real first mentor outside of family and friends and these sort of people. And that's really where I'd really say my own personal development journey started, was with that one book.
I love Tony Robbins' work, and that's on my list to do also. I would love to go see his live event. So tell me about what led you to today. What brought you into this work that you do?
I think I was always going to do this work. And it was in around 2008 to 2012. I'd had chronic fatigue. This was from past drug use. All up, I'd tried probably 19 different legal and illegal drugs. Left my digestive system in a lot of trouble, end up with daily anxiety, sore joints and muscles, and just started reading copious amount of books, 100 to 150 books a year on health and healing and human behavior, and really thought, well, the doctors couldn't give me an answer, so I thought, I just need to get as healthy as possible, learn as much as I can. And that was kind of the informal training. And then moving to Brisbane around 10 years ago, that's where I started to really study a bit deeper and did find some mentors and teachers there.
Something that you brought up in the book, John Demartini. Can you share with me a little bit? I'm really fascinated to learn about him. Just real quick, there's so many different modalities and trainings out there. What's something that's unique, a big takeaway from his training that would be valuable to our listeners who are practitioners and professionals?
Dr. John Demartini, a native from America, or from the US, from Texas. And his modality is about finding equanimity or balance in really anything that's going on in the mind. So let's say, as an example, sometimes we have someone that challenges who we are, and we have resentment towards that person. Could be a family member or an arrogant boss or our wives or our children, and that will definitely occur. There's also other times where we're really happy with people. People give us gifts, people are nice to us, people support who we are, and those people we have infatuation or happiness with. But really what his teachings help to provide is that it's only a one side of the picture. So if I'm really resentful about something from my past, I must be missing where the gratitude is. I must be missing the blessings somehow. And we say that God doesn't make mistakes. Yet I'm seeing something from the past as a mistake. I'm not really truly seeing and feeling God at that time. So the DeMartini method helps to break through the misperceptions we have and to really find that equanimity, find grace, and essentially find our way back to the soul and back to God.
Having gratitude, that's one of the things that I like to do before I go to bed when I'm feeling like there's nothing to be thankful for, and how silly a thought that is. There's so much to be thankful for, and how healing that is to acknowledge all the blessings in our lives. We just aren't thinking of them at the moment.
Yeah, it's an amazing thought. We maybe finish a day that felt like a bad day, and then when we spend just a few minutes thinking about it, wow, actually we feel like it was a great day and there was something there that was a blessing. So to deny ourselves that is to live out of the truth. It's not the truth to say there's only positive or only negative. It's great to see both sides.
So let's talk about your book. I listened to it through software from a PDF and really loved the book. I could identify with a lot of the type of behaviors with addictions and cravings. Talk about what brought you to write this book and how it all came about.
Yeah, so my mission is to reach 10 million people by the end of 2025. And it was after around 8 years and around 2,000 hypnotherapy sessions, I'd really started to see patterns between people. This can be cigarette smokers and kind of the patterns that lead to it and the challenges that can occur, as well as different eating disorders, alcohol addiction, and some other ones as well. And what I really wanted to share was bringing awareness to empower people, rather than something seeming like it's a mystery or something seen as impossible to overcome, that there are steps that can be taken and things that can really help in reducing cravings and getting our power back.
I really loved the book, and the book is Freedom from Addiction. And we'll put all the links on the website, how to get a hold of the book, as well as how to get a hold of you. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm a structure person, and I love discovering new structures. And there's something you talk about in the book. It's called the WARP process, W-A-R-P process. So share with me, what is the value of that process and what are its origins? Or is that a process that you've made up?
Yeah, so this is the process I've developed myself after working with thousands of people. And I guess to give a little bit of background about that is that usually when a person presents with an addiction, it can feel like out of control. There can be judgment, regret, and a lot of people in their lives telling them that it's bad and negative. However, the person themselves will experience a totally different thing. Imagine someone, say, is using speed or using stimulants, and someone says to them that's bad, whereas they're feeling high, they're getting pleasure out of it, social connection, and maybe getting some other needs met there as well. So the first step we take with the Walker Addiction Removal Process, or WARP, is to ask, what is the positive intention behind that addiction? And that can be varied and it can be unique. So initially, we really want to find out, what is this person getting from that addiction? And I've never met a single person in 2,000 sessions that's not getting some kind of payoff from it. So really want to find that out initially. Hey, what's going on? What's going on in life? And what role is that addiction playing?
Interesting. That language of what is the positive intention, is that met with resistance at first? I mean, sometimes it's hard to see, what could I possibly be getting out of this? What am I not knowing I'm getting out of this?
That's right. One lady in particular, and I share her story in the book, Nadia. She began yelling at me in my office. Sugar is bad. Sugar is bad. And I said, yes, I can see it's having some negative or bad consequences. However, you wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't something you were getting out of it. And after around 15 to 20 minutes of exploration, we found 13 different positive intentions for eating sugar. One of which was feeling comfort and feeling love towards her mother that lived in another country. It reminded her of that. Mm. So what we do with the warp is not take that love and comfort away, but find another way to satisfy that need. So can she get in contact with her mum again? Can she really connect deeper with family that's here in Australia? Can she go through some healing? So we're not getting the comfort from the chocolate now, and she can start to explore other ways to meet those deeper needs.
Something that you said in your book that I really was fascinated with, it says, an addiction is because of one of two reasons, either avoiding or getting away from something, or to experience or gain something. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's right. So if we had any sort of drug or any sort of habit, we're looking to gain something. Could be gaining pleasure, gaining that comfort, connection, any number of things like that, getting a high, or all of these things. Or we're looking to get away from something, get away from stress, shut down the mind, get rid of pain, get away from our kids, get away from a relationship. Looking to either get something or get away from something. And any sort of behavior is looking to satisfy one of those two.
I never thought about like addictions and cravings, kind of like the whip and the carrot a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
Something that I run into with some clients that will come in dealing with like smoking or weight loss, they will call themselves an addict. Is there a difference between compulsions and addictions?
I think one of the differences can be is when we call ourselves an addict, then it becomes part of identity. And that can be much harder to remove. As a hypnotherapist, we don't want to take away anyone's identity. Whereas compulsion, we kind of see that as a behavior. It's something outside of us. It's something we do, but it's not who we are. I think that can make a difference certainly in the US and here in Australia, some people find some empowerment in saying, well, I am an alcoholic, so that means I will never drink again. However, it can also be empowering to say, well, that was something that I did, but it's not who I am. Inside, I believe we're more than our behaviors, and we can find a way to be empowered beyond a label that restricts us in a way.
Something else I really liked about in your book, you talked about teens. I'm a parent. My kids are growing up now. It's challenging sometimes to connect with teens over just everyday life issues. Can you share a little bit, like for parents listening, how would a parent talk to a teen about drugs, or even a mentor talk to a teen about drugs?
Yeah, that's something I share in the book, is that children now are being introduced to drugs at school as early as 8 to 10 years old, and in some cases even earlier. So one of the positions I would take is be the first person who talks to your kids about drugs. Don't let it be another child sharing about their experiences or an older person who might take advantage. Be that first point of call and finding, teaching moments. So rather than it being the big sit-down talk where it's never take drugs, it could be, oh, look at that. It might be a smoker that you see down at the supermarket. It might be someone on TV who's going through a challenge and saying, well, we can see that person's got a problem with smoking, or that person has a drug addiction. Look at the experience they're having in life. Well, what do you think about that? And if we actually take, sometimes kids will think smoking's cool, but if we actually look at smokers at the airport and at other places, if we look at them closely, there's not really anything cool about it. Sitting on our own, sitting out in the cold, and there's usually more stress there, as well as stress and anxiety associated with it. When can I smoke? Worried about the smell and this sort of thing. And if we really break it down and give them a balanced perspective, we can kind of dispel some of those myths that can lead kids to drugs.
You talked a little bit about identities with NLP, the neurological levels. With identities, how does that affect somebody with like addictions?
From what I see is identity can be formed by something we're either very proud of or something we're very good at. So if we've got an American football star, they're a football player. Or if someone has committed a crime, something they're very ashamed of and something the public frowns upon, they're labelled criminal. and that becomes their identity based on a behavior that they're either proud or ashamed of. So I'd look to break that down and kind of say, well, is that who they are? It's a behavior they did that was at an extreme level, either positive or negative, but that's not who we are. And I really believe in separating behavior from identity, because say if someone did commit a murder and then we label them a criminal, but what if the next 30 years they become a humanitarian and help many thousands of people? Are they now a murderer or a humanitarian? Or are they both, or are they neither? So in a sense, all of those are true, but none of them are giving the whole picture about a person. So I'd really reflect on your own identity, and so the people that are listening, and is that thing you're proud or ashamed of who you are, or are you potentially a lot more? Can you grow out of that labeled identity and become something much greater than that?
You shared the book Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, and I'm always fascinated with books mentioned in books because I love to dig deeper into like the learnings of the author of the book. Can you share something about the distinction between the conscious and subconscious mind, and or any takeaways from that book that you really valued?
Oh yeah, it was one of the books that really got me started on this, using the deeper mind, getting into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, really controlling our own destiny. One of the key thoughts in that book was that we can communicate with our own mind. Some of us, we might communicate to ourselves harshly. Some of us might communicate to ourselves quite well and or even gently. And I thought, what if I communicated to my mind like it was a friend? I asked it questions, I asked it for help, and started to use that inner resource as a way to actually to get some better results.
You also talked about in your book parent goals, and right in that same area, the difference between a powerful goal and a poorly written goal. What are some challenges people come up with when their intention is good, that they're wanting to write a powerful goal or to set their intention as a powerful intention, but it actually maybe is not as powerful as it could be?
Oh yeah, and I heard you mention the carrot and the whip earlier. And we're actually wired as human beings to be 10 times more wired, essentially, to get away from a pain as we are to go for a pleasure. So if we're in the jungle and we're hungry and we see a piece of hanging fruit, there's the pleasure. But if we're also being chased by a lion at that time, there's the pain. And we're not going to go for the fruit if we're at risk of being eaten. So that fear of being a prey and that fear of something being a downside and a drawback, we're far more likely to focus on that than we are actually to focus on the reward. Now, that is great in a survival situation, but in a pursuing life goals situation, we get too focused on, I don't want to be poor, or I don't want to be unhealthy, or I want to break this addiction, as opposed to focused on what we really want to have. So I think in the book, I share one of the reframes around addiction, which can be, I want to break addiction, not as motivating, or I want to create a life where I'm inspired, serving people, eating well, feeling great, doing the things I love, and using that as a goal rather than I just want to break an addiction or I just want to have the other thing.
In your book, you also talked about chronic fatigue, and you mentioned that earlier. I think that sometimes people don't realize that they're in it. You had mentioned sometimes it can have been happening for a long time, and that suddenly there's this realization that it's actually been going on for quite some time. It just little by little creeps in, and then there's the awareness, wow, this is actually, I felt this way for the last month or the last 6 months or whatever. So can you talk a little about, again, for the listener who maybe is not the professional, or maybe even the professional that is experiencing this but is not aware of it, how do you know if you have chronic fatigue? What is it, and how do you get rid of it?
Yeah, so it was about a year after stopping taking all drugs. I'd even given up alcohol by this point. I was still eating quite poorly, but had given up many of the other damaging habits and addictions. And I noticed it had been maybe 3 months or longer, and I thought, wow, my body's been sore every day. I've been tired every day. Food wasn't digesting. And I thought, I'd been feeling this way for a long time and I hadn't even noticed. So I guess it's one important thing to note is if you are feeling that way, that's not normal, or it's not natural. There's well-being is our natural state. And if the body's giving symptoms of extreme tiredness and anxiety and digestion problems, the body's really saying, hey, something needs to change, something needs to shift, and some healing can happen. The second part of your question around how to get rid of it, chronic fatigue is a symptom, so we wouldn't say we can just get rid of chronic fatigue. We need to find out, is it viral, is it bacterial, is it related to something else? However, in my case, it was getting back into regular exercise and having a really clean diet, getting towards plant-based and vegetarian, and actually cutting out all sugar for a 2-week period, like completely, and then only having very minimal amounts after that. My energy nearly tripled within a 2-week period.
Wow.
So the things we're putting into the gut, whether they're light or whether they're heavy, processed or not, can make such a big difference in restoring energy levels. And I saw a professional naturopath and Ayurvedic practitioner around that.
There's so much I love about your book. I really was fascinated with it, and I think it's an incredible contribution. So you have structure in your book with processes, and then also you have awarenesses, and then also you have some suggestions with the 7 cornerstones of health. Can you share with us about things that people can do to get healthy and be healthy?
Yeah, this is something I put together myself after reading those 1,000 or so books on health and healing and behavior. And these turned up in medical books, spiritual books, the Bible. These things are everywhere. And the number one for myself was around our breath. So if we can, just steady that breath, breathing in slowly and breathing out, and really, really getting connected with that breath and using it in a way where we can become settled and become present, I think can be really powerful. And then the other 6 is around water, having really good quality food, exercise, getting enough rest. And typically if we're really good at being busy and go, rest is our balancing tool. Or if we're kind of good at going with the flow, being more passive, not taking action, exercise can be a good balancer there as well. So we want to have a balance of these things as opposed to anything that's too extreme. And then number 6 is using our self-talk. So when we do catch ourselves in a negative headspace, having tools to be able to turn that around. And I share a few of those in the book. And then having something in life that's a passion or a purpose. Who are we? Who can we serve today? What can we achieve today? Or even what fun can we have today? Finding something that sparks that life energy within us.
In the back of the book, you have a section that talks about 50 reasons people have compulsions and addictions. I really like that you had a list that you can just kind of go through and see what you identify with. That's a really interesting contribution. How did you come up with that list?
One of the reasons I wanted to include that list was, to really prove that addictions have a positive intention behind them. We can look at that list and go, okay, I can see there's obviously something we're getting out of it. Addiction is not random. It is not wholly negative. Our deeper mind is looking to get something out of it. And those ones are essentially general. It's covering all of the major addictions, from gambling to hard drugs, food, cigarettes, alcohol. And then we can get more specific with each one. If the book was just, say, quitting alcohol, we'd find the 50 that relate closest to alcohol and use those. So essentially, sharing that so people can have a look at it and go, okay, and giving a bit of a guide of saying what we're getting out of the addiction can also show us the path to leave it behind. So I know when I had my challenge with sugar, I had chocolate and lollies and these sort of things every day for 20 years, which ended up causing the gut problems. But looking back, I was using it as a reward, stress relief, just enjoyed the pleasure of it. Did I share stress relief? I think so. And also enjoyed the taste and used it socially. So now I would ask, how can I get comfort, pleasure, and stress relief from things that make me feel good that are also healthy? And that's one of the purposes of the book, is to find that new way that's going to satisfy the addiction in a way that you don't have to use willpower. It's not, I've just got to quit this bad thing. It's, hey, what did I get from it that's genuine? And I can find an alternative that actually works.
It's like a workbook also, not only the valuable learnings and information, but also it's a workbook towards the back when it goes into the WARP process, the WARP process.
That's right. So I share those case studies, which really aids in the readability of the book, I think, where you can maybe see yourself through someone else's story and gain some insights there. But also those who want to do the work, they want to get more control, be free from that addiction. You can go in, there's exercises, all step by step, all laid out for you. So I wanted to be able to share that with people.
What's next for you? What kind of trainings, any presentations that you have going on or coming up for you?
I've put so much into this book, that's really taken up the last year or two. So far as trainings, doing some more work with Dr. John DiMartini in the future. That's always so valuable. His contributions to my work, and even some of his themes do appear in the book as well. Such as his influence in my life. But really, focusing on my relationship. I've got a fiance now. We've been together for 2 years, which is great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And really just helping more people. I've got my clinic here in Brisbane and also work worldwide through Zoom and Skype. So just continuing the mission, helping people through the book and through the sessions. Yeah.
You've got lots of life left. What's on your bucket list?
Definitely travel. I'm not sure exactly what country, but having experiences like I've been to Egypt and had amazing spiritual transformation there. Also South Africa, which was amazing to go and travel to these sort of places. So really anywhere that provides beauty of nature, but also a spiritual element as well. And definitely, more of these trainings and programs, because that's where I come alive the most. So finding out more about the human body, the mind-body connection, all of these really light me up. Probably nature, travel, and more of the work I'm doing would be on my bucket list. Yeah.
Nice. Now, do you have any workshops around this book? Do you have like group get-togethers?
There is a group. If people do join me on Facebook, either via myself, Jeremy Walker, or through the page Inspire Hypnotherapy. I have got some groups going at the moment, a free 7-day workshop around the book. And then that goes on to a 21-day intensive, paid one for the 21 days. People are welcome to jump in, explore that. And they're definitely available, yeah.
Well, I will probably take you up on that because I'm really fascinated with your work. It resonates with me. Very well written book. It shows that you put a lot of work into it. Very good quality, and I think incredible value for anybody that is challenged with any of these different forms of addictions. Is there any other way for our listeners to get a hold of you that you'd like to share?
They can jump onto www.inspirehypnotherapy.com through Facebook, as I mentioned, Inspire Hypnotherapy, and via Amazon you can buy this book. Looking up Freedom from Addiction, Jeremy Walker. You'll find the book there as well. Welcome having a chat with anyone who's looking to either just reduce stress or gain control of a food habit, all the way through to I don't know what to do. Life is out of control, and some serious stuff, and they really want to get some freedom from that. We're always welcome having that chat with those people.
One last question: how do you want to be remembered? The impressions you intend to leave in the world?
Well, I want to be remembered as someone who did make a contribution to the addiction treatment model, but also as a person, to remember as someone that went out of their way, was determined, served love, served people. That would be how I want to be remembered. Yeah.
It shows in your book that you're passionate about this. I want to acknowledge you for being vulnerable in the book, opening up to your experience with addictions. And that is such a powerful way, I believe, to communicate with those who maybe don't see hope, that there is hope. So thank you for all of the work that you've done in this incredible book that I highly recommend. And thank you also for being our guest today. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you very much, David. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today with Awaken the Mind, hosted by David Uhas.
Awaken the mind, you need to understand. If you can't, you must, and if you must, you can. Now that I got you, let me put you in a trance. Got you feeling hypnotic, your mind, let me massage it. Your thoughts are getting quiet, your stress subsiding. You start starting to see images, but it ain't no mirages. Think it's time to calibrate. Take a breath and concentrate. Get into your subconscious. Time to feel the energy, the brain waves. Let's go deep into your memory. Beware of self, let the worries melt. All you see is you and you don't see no one else. Auditory digital, talking to yourself. It might seem bizarre, a feeling you never felt. This is your time to shine. Awaken the mind, the NLP and Hypnosis Guide.